Figures glided through the clouds, descending gracefully with radiant wings unfurled. Angels. The mercenaries gasped in unison, pointing upward. "Look! Up there! They have wings! They must be angels! Dear God!" They stared in awe, overwhelmed by the holy brilliance that bathed the treetops. Ryu, however, didn't flinch. His expression stayed cold, detached. He already knew why they had come, and he said to himself, "So they sent two to kill me this time?" The angels descended slowly, light streaming from their wings as they fixed their piercing gazes on him. Their voices echoed through the forest, clear and chilling. "Found you, Black Scythe? So here you are, worm." Ryu stood still, every muscle coiled like a drawn bow. With their many wings and imposing presence, Ryu knew these angels were no ordinary opponents. He inhaled slowly, tasting the charged air between them, feeling the weight of heaven itself press down. From 20 meters away, he could already sense their thoughts, and he said, "One is Uriel, the archangel of light and fire, ranked 4th. The other is Ragwell, the archangel of justice, ranked 5th. He let the revelation settle, his jaw tightening in a faint, unreadable line. Though they weren't the strongest angels, facing two at once was enough to make him tense. He could feel the past regressions flashing behind his eyes like a strobing memory. Ryu asked himself, "Is this because I killed another archangel? I'm dealing with more angels than in previous regressions." Ryu couldn't help but wonder if the top-ranked archangel might show up next. His expression flickered, part curiosity, part thinly veiled calculation, as he weighed the risk. While he observed them, the angels exuded a relaxed demeanor, as if confident in their superiority. Uriel's posture was the very picture of detached authority. Ragwell's wings shifted with the arrogance of someone certain of victory. Ragwell said, "Uriel, as we agreed, I'll handle this first. Don't interfere." Urged on by a cool, dismissive tilt of his head, Uriel's voice carried like a bell chiming in a silent hall. "Fine, fine. Just make sure you can finish it without my help." Ragwell said, "Worry not. Who do you think I am? I'm the one who makes demons tremble in fear." Ragwell's grin widened at his own boast, the light catching on the golden hilts at his waist as he moved. Ryu watched him, lips pressed thin. Then Uriel added, "Then prove it by defeating him without getting scratched. That'll save face for the higher-ups." Ragwell, brimming with confidence, drew 2 swords from his waist. They were gleaming long swords with golden blades, and curiously, he wielded one in each hand. The blades sang softly as they left their sheaths, a sound that made the hairs on Ryu's arms lift. Ryu Min's eyes narrowed and inquired, "A dual-wielding angel?" In fact, most angels would use a sword and shield, but this one seemed to favor an aggressive style. Ryu said to himself, "I'll need to gauge his skill level." He read Ragwell as a gambler reads a card, searching for the tells. As Ragwell approached, Ryu noticed Uriel standing in the back with his arms crossed, seemingly unconcerned. Uriel's face betrayed only faint interest, the corner of his mouth barely twitching. Ryu said, "It looks like they'll take turns fighting. Fine by me." Ryu readied himself, shoulders loose but prepared to snap into action. His hand found the scythe's haft as if greeting an old companion. He prepared to unleash his death form if needed, as Ragwell drew closer. Ragwell's voice rolled over him like thunder through a canyon, full of self-righteous fury. "You, the Black Scythe. No, there's no need to call you by name. I'm here to judge you, and you already know the crime, don't you?" Ryu's answer was calm, but there was a spark in his eyes, mischief wrapped in cold steel. As he said, "What crime? I don't know what you're talking about." Ragwell inquired, "Do you really not know, you filthy human?" Ryu's mouth curved into a smirk, and his tone held a razor edge, saying, "You'll have to speak clearer, you devilish angel." That drew a crack in Ragwell's composure, and he shouted, "You insolent worm!" Though Ryu hadn't meant to provoke Ragwell much, the angel's face contorted with rage. The muscles in Ragwell's jaw tensed. His eyes flared crimson with indignation. Ryu's amusement was quiet. It rippled across his features like the surface of a pond touched by wind. It was easy to see why he was called the Angel of Justice. His lack of composure made him an easy target. Ryu said, "So easily provoked. He's a predictable opponent." Smirking, Ryu allowed himself a soft chuckle, the sound unexpectedly light in the grim battlefield. Ragwell inquired, "What's so funny, human?" Ryu's grin broadened with a flash of teeth, calm, almost lazy, saying, "Oh, nothing. I just thought of something amusing." Ragwell shouted, "What's so amusing, worm?" Ryu said, "I remembered when Remiel and Sariel begged for their lives. The way they pleaded was quite entertaining." At that, Ragwell's Ragwell's restraint snapped like a brittle twig. That seemed to be the last straw. With a roar of fury, Ragwell charged at him. The world seemed to narrow as the angel lunged, golden blades flashing in ruthless arcs. He shouted, "I'll kill you right here and now, you insect!" Metal rang against metal with a harsh metallic chorus as Ragwell's attacks came swift and fierce. He aimed for Ryu's head, but Ryu easily blocked it with his scythe. The second sword went for his side, but he twisted his body to evade it with the graceful economy of a predator. Rage shouted, "I'll crush you, you filthy human!" The sound of metal clashing echoed as Ragwell relentlessly swung his dual swords. However, despite the intensity of the attack, Ryu was unimpressed. His face was an unreadable mask, eyes cool and assessing, and he asked himself, is this really the level of the fifth-ranked archangel? He expected far more from an archangel of Ragwell's rank, but the angel's skills were sorely lacking. Ryu added, "No, it's not that he's weak, it's that I've become absurdly strong." Ryu's thoughts were not arrogance so much as sober measurement. He knew what he was capable of, and that knowledge sat solidly in his chest. He moved like a shadow made of intent, parrying and redirecting with sparing motions. Ragwell continued his assault, but his strikes lacked precision. He was attacking recklessly, likely due to his earlier provocation. Ryu easily parried each blow, noticing all the gaps in Ragwell's form with the detached curiosity of a craftsman inspecting a poorly made blade. Ryu said to himself, his strength is greater than Serial's, but his attacks lack sharpness. He's not a real threat. While Ryu continued to block, he couldn't help but glance toward Uriel, who had uncrossed his arms and was now watching the fight with a slightly surprised expression. A small crease formed between Uriel's brows, just enough to betray that he had taken note. Ryu said, "If this is all Ragwell can do, then Uriel won't be much of a problem either." Ragwell, oblivious to Ryu's thoughts, smirked as if he had the upper hand, a flash of overconfidence lighting his features. And he said, "So, you've managed to block my attacks so far. I'm impressed. I didn't expect a lowly human to keep up with me." Ryu's eyes flicked with a faint, sardonic amusement, saying, "If you only knew how disappointed I am." Ragwell said, "Let's see if you can handle this." Ragwell's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, the kind that promised ruin. He jumped back, putting distance between them, and crossed his swords. The golden blades hummed with power as they began to vibrate and glow more intensely, an eloquent prelude to devastation. A smirk crept across Ragwell's face as he prepared his ultimate attack. Ryu said, "He's going to level the entire area." Ryu's foresight ability opened a slit of vision into the immediate future. The scene played out like a film in his mind. Ragwell's attack was going to cause massive destruction, reducing the surrounding area to ashes. Ryu said to himself, "It won't be a problem for me to dodge," but the others' concern flickered over his face. Quick, practical. He checked the positions of the other mercenaries, calculating angles and distances in an instant. The other mercenaries, including cults, were too close to Ragwell's attack zone. If he didn't act quickly, they would be caught in the devastation. Without hesitation, Ryu acted, and he shouted, "Everyone, get out of here!" His voice cut through the tension like a blade. He moved with explosive speed, not wasting a single second. He swiftly used his grip of death ability, pulling the nearby mercenaries out of harm's way. At the same time, he lunged toward Kaltz, knocking him aside just as Ragwell's swords released their full power. A pillar of light erupted from the ground, forming a giant X-shaped crater. Trees were reduced to ashes, and the ground was scorched beyond recognition. The air itself seemed to scream as the energy tore the world apart for a heartbeat. The mercenaries, barely saved from the blast, stared in horror at the bottomless pit left in Ragwell's wake. Their faces were pale, their bodies trembling, not just from fear, but from the knowledge of how close they'd been to death. And one said, We would have been destroyed," Kaltz gasped, still reeling from the close call. Gratitude and awe lacquered his voice. "Thank you, warrior from another world. You saved us." But Ryu wasn't paying attention to their gratitude. His eyes were fixed on the system notifications floating in front of him. coldly practical and unwavering. Hero's rune stack, 73 out of 100. The hero's rune effect increases all stats by 73. His expression registered a small, almost private satisfaction, and he said, "I gained 3 stacks for saving them." The reason Ryu saved the mercenaries wasn't purely out of goodwill. He needed to stack the hero's rune, and by saving others, he could increase its power. He allowed a ghost of a smile to pass, strategy hidden inside seeming compassion. He added, "If I save the rest of these mercenaries, I can easily reach 100 stacks." He glanced at the remaining mercenaries, mapping who else stood in danger. To achieve that, he would need Ragwell's help. If the Archangel could be coaxed into a position that earned him that final push. The Archangel, meanwhile, was staring at him with a confused expression. He seemed more shocked by Ryu's actions than by the fact that his attack had been evaded. Rage, disbelief, and wounded pride warred across Ragwell's face, saying, "What are you doing, human? Why would a player like you bother saving these mercenaries? They mean nothing to you." Ryu said, "These people did nothing wrong." Ryu's voice was simple, but it carried weight. To anyone else, Ryu's words might sound noble, but to the Archangel, they were nothing short of absurd. The plainness of his defense grated like salt on Ragwell's sense of justice. Ragwell saw him as a criminal, a murderer of angels. To him, Ryu's concern for the mercenaries was akin to a mass murderer caring for a stray dog. He said, "Ha, the irony. A filthy sinner like you saving others." Ragwell's look of disbelief quickly morphed into a sinister grin. His eyes glittered with a cruel promise, saying, "Well then, how about this? I'll kill every one of these mercenaries you care about. Let's see how you feel about that."